Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to take a sneak peek at upcoming Season Pass 3 for Anno 1800. I am Neodyinamite, and ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a look at the official Ubisoft video regarding the upcoming DLCs actually for Anno. Obviously, we're gonna be playing that thing, of course. So there are gonna be 3 new DLCs for Anno. There won't be any new season. By that I mean there's not gonna be a new territory to load. So we won't get a Bessa, we won't get a new version of a Bessa, we won't get a new version of the Arctic, we won't get a new version of the New World and so forth, right? The DLC is about to focus about the Old World, which is quite interesting thingy because, well, that means improvements. So the first DLC is the Docklands, coming on the 21st of February. And you probably wonder what exactly this thing is. According to the video, as you see over here, this thing is supposed to change the docks, right? This thing over here is the standard dock that you have normally in the game. You can see the palace in the distance. Basically, this thing will work, I think, like the palace. If you don't know, the palace in Anno 1800 is a modular thing, which means that you build the main building, you build the main palace building, and then you add the other wings to it, right? You have to attach it together, but basically as the amount of people you have in your town increases, the more new segments of the palace you can build. And I'm guessing this is going to be something similar because, as you can see, that thing in the middle, I do believe that's the main warehouse, right? And the surrounding buildings, in my opinion, are just additional warehouses that are supposed to increase the amount of storage you can try to keep in your on your main island. But also there's one little building on the right side of the screen. Now apparently, according to the things I've managed to gather, you with this DLC you actually will be able to build yourself a trading empire. By that I mean that, for example, you have an island. Let's say that you have an island where you create canned food, or maybe you create workers' clothing and stuff like that, and basically your warehouse is overflowing. Sure, you can set automated trading from your warehouse, or you can load it manually and deliver it to one of the NPCs or one of the, well, rivals that potentially you have trade rights with, and sell it to them. But that's basically it. It's not too much of a flavor into it, right? Apparently this DLC is supposed to change this thing. Either you will get big convoys that will come to your harbor that you'll be able to trade with, but also there's a possibility that you'll be able to trade, let's say, resources that you have in huge quantities for the resources that you actually need. So for example, if you are at the end game, you probably get to the point where you have problems with getting coffee, right? For example, that's like the most common thing. So for example, technically speaking, to my understanding, let's say that you'll be having shitloads of amounts of steam engines in your warehouses, and on the end game there is not too many things you can actually do with the steam engines, right? But it's good to have them just in case of a war, because you need steam engines to produce the steamships. But if you are not at war, then the only thing you use the steam engines for are the carriages for the investors. But that's actually it. So for example, you could try to sell those things and get in return some coffee, which you will probably need and stuff like that. So this is an interesting thing, that you'll be able to build an actual trading empire, right? But also, apparently you're supposed to get some cool decorative stuff around the harbor itself. You'll be, I think, finally able to almost recreate the harbor areas from the original trailers of the game, from the original screenshots of the game, which is, in my opinion, really interesting and something I really wanted to actually do, but because lack of the mechanics in the game was not exactly possible. The second DLC, coming in spring 2021, is the tourist season. Now, as you know, there is this harbor thingy in the game already, right? That accepts tourists into your city. Depending on how attractive your city is, no more people will come. If you will go, if I remember correctly, above 4,000 or 6,000 attractiveness, then you will also get yourself some very interesting specialists, right? The ones, for example, I use all the time. We are talking here the epic quality one and the legendary quality one. Now, the thing is that those tourists, they come to your city, and that's actually it. There is no more into it. There's no more flavor, right? From time to time, a special ship that nobody can attack arrives at the map. he goes to those harbors, he leaves the tourists on your island, and basically that's it, and he goes on his way, and there is nothing else you can try to do with it, except of course accepting the specialists into your service. Now apparently this DLC is supposed to change this thing. You will be able to build yourself hotels, you will be able to build yourself restaurants, maybe some points of interest, but also you will need to build bus routes around your city, right? So I'm not exactly sure how this thing is gonna work, but I'm guessing that it will work on depending on how much tourists you have in your city, which means that the more tourists you have, the more hotels you will need, the more money actually you're gonna get. And the cool thing about it is that the DLC also add you a new monument to construct. Now, obviously, this is supposed to be based on the Eiffel Tower, right? Which is really cool. And I think I want to build this thing in the middle of Crown Falls. I will have to probably remove the warfare on a side, but I'm kind of hoping that I'll be able to squeeze this thing in the middle of my city, because this is gonna look actually really, really bloody cool. And as always, and I say this thing many times, if you're wondering, like, if you don't want to buy the season passes, which DLC you should try to buy? In my opinion, Sunken Treasures is basically a must-have. That one or Mbesa, the Land of the Lion. Those two DLCs, in my personal opinion, at the moment are a must-have for this game, because they add a lot and they actually provide you with really cool content. Sure, the Arctic is really cool, but it's not worth it. In my opinion, I like the theme of the Arctic, but I just hated the opportunity that DLC had, and the developers, in my opinion, basically wasted that opportunity. But that's only my opinion. Of course, if you like the Arctic, that's completely fine with you. I'm not saying it's a bad DLC. Now, the final DLC apparently is gonna add, well, some really interesting things. Of course, there's gonna be some minor patches and stuff like that everybody gonna receive. But this DLC, the final DLC, is called the High Life. As you all know, in each season pass, the final DLC always added the most thing, right? So in Season Pass 1, we had, of course, the Arctic. In Season Pass 2, we've had, of course, Land of the Lion. And in Season Pass 3, we got High Lives. And yeah, you see this thing right. You'll be able to build yourself skyscrapers, like actual skyscrapers, which is an interesting concept, because as you all know, I wanted to have around 100,000 investors on my main island on Crown Falls, and with this thing I think this is gonna be a lot easier to achieve. But there is the other side of the coin. It's not gonna be that easy, because apparently the higher you build, the more expensive it will get. So I'm guessing that people who be living on higher floors will actually have bigger consumption rates comparing it to, let's say, normal investors' residences, which is really cool. But what I would love that the developers could add are actual big houses for the peasant class, for the worker class, and maybe but not necessarily for the artisans class. Okay, because like if you're gonna get yourself farmers, I'm talking about the aesthetics over here. If you're gonna build yourself peasants, if you're gonna build yourself farmers districts in your city, obviously it's gonna be hard to build them in the middle of your city, of your high-end city, endgame city, and not notice that those guys are still living in huts made out of twigs and some hay or whatever that thing is, right? So what would be really cool to have is a house that looks like the artisan's house maybe, but it houses only the peasants inside, or houses only the workers inside. So they're gonna have better looking houses that you could easily implement somewhere in your city, not necessarily in its middle, right, in the downtown area, but maybe on the outskirts of the city, and that will look like a one whole actual city. It's not gonna look like from one side you got those really fancy investors' houses, and right next to them you have the peasants' houses. Okay, right? It's gonna be a bit hard to mix those things together, and you're gonna notice if you watched how I built my cities, you probably noticed that I tried to keep the theme of having the investors only on one island, then on 2 islands, on the 2 other main islands as I call them, I got mostly engineers, and on the remaining islands I got artisans, workers, and sometimes I build small villages for my peasants. And I only build small ones because I don't have that big need for peasants right now, because I'm using the endgame specialist, which basically reduces the amount of workers that you need, like around 80 or maybe even sometimes 100%. Some of my farms in the game are so well buffed with the specialists that they exactly have 0 workforce needed. I basically built ghost farms and they are working somehow. Don't question it, man, that's how it works. But yeah, this is gonna add some very interesting concepts to the Anno game that I really like. And the thing is that I'm starting to think that the developers are actually taking the ideas a lot from the mods section of the community modding, because there is already a mod for the game, for Anno, that allows you to, technically speaking, build skyscrapers. They're not as fancy as those, but you can actually build skyscrapers. You can actually have models, unique models for the skyscrapers inside of Anno, made by players for players, which is, well, you know, I'm not saying, but I'm guessing that they kinda use the idea over here. And also, there is already a mod for the game made by the players for players that basically was released long time ago, like tremendous long time ago, that actually adds something like a tourist DLC to the game. You had to build special railroads in your city that basically allowed people to use passengers trains to go around the city, which is a very interesting mod, by the way. And you also, I think there is a mod with hotels. I'm not exactly sure does it work, but there is a mod that actually gives more options for the tourists. The tourist DLC also is gonna add you bus stations that you have to spread around your city, especially at the points of interest for the tourists to use. So that means some of us will have to actually redo the majority of the cities if you want to allow the tourists to go in, depending on how that thing is gonna go. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that they didn't show is that for the final DLC for High Life, the developers of Anno are adding the biggest and tallest monument called the Empire Building. Not Empire State Building. I said my dad that is an Empire State Building, which he laughs at. Yeah, my dad was right, apparently. Sorry, Dad. Yeah, but they're adding the Empire Building monument. It's nowhere on the screens. I haven't seen that thing anywhere. Maybe because I haven't noticed, but there is gonna be a gigantic monument in that DLC, and that monument is supposed to take tremendous amounts of resources. It's supposed to be the biggest monument in the game, and it will provide you with something. I don't know what. We will see, because the thing is that the current monuments in the game, which are not that many if you think about that, the Research Institute actually provides you with, which is a monument, it provides you with, well, of course, research and the possibility to create items on your own and some special buffs and modifications for the islands. Then, of course, you have the World Fair, which is used to get you random rewards for your zoos, for your museums, for your town halls, or for your, how do you call those things? Trade unions, or harbor areas and stuff like that. And of course, then you have the monument in the Arctic, which is used only to build the flying ships, so you don't use that thing that often, because there's no way to destroy a flying ship, so there's no need even to buy a white flag for that thing. And that's actually it. Sure, some of the people will compare the palace to the actual monument, which is okay, which is fine. The old Anno 1404 had with the expansion, the Venus also had a modular palace that didn't give you anything, actually. It wasted space and resources, but didn't give you anything in return, if I remember correctly. So this is the palace in Anno 1800 gives you something really cool. Yeah, so that's why I recommend getting the palace, by the way. But yeah, I'm not sure what the monument will give, like the Empire Building. I'm guessing the Alpha Tower is gonna give you shitloads of attractiveness. But what exactly is the Empire Building gonna give you? Nobody knows so far. So I'm looking forward into those DLCs. I really am. I am positively impressed by the DLC, the Season Pass 2. Basically, in my opinion, Land of the Lion is really bloody cool. I really like the story over there. I really like Emperor Katema and his story, and like those little themes that he had with his surrounding islands that you have to unify his kingdom on the one banner once again. That's really cool. I like how they've added basically a new worker class or tier or whatever, however you're gonna call that thing, the scholars, which basically adds something new to the game, which is like a completely new thing. And it doesn't interfere that much with the beginning of the game because the beginning of the game is still the same. You have to build stuff up. And the scholars are basically a new way to, you know, to have a money sink into it, which is really cool. Of course, you have those really cool decorations and stuff like that. So Land of the Lion, yeah, really cool. Highly recommending that thing. Of course, the Sunken Treasures and the Palace DLC. Yeah, I forgot about the Palace DLC. The third DLC that I really recommend is the Palace one. The Palace DLC is actually really, really cool. Highly recommending that thing as well. So in the proper order would be Sunken Treasures, Land of the Lion, and the Palace DLC. Like those three, if you need to buy some DLCs in that order and get at least those three, you won't be disappointed. Like they're gonna add, in my opinion, they should be in the base game, but yeah, well, money, I guess. So yeah, looking forward into it. Let me know what you guys think. I especially look forward into changing the look of my harbor because I honestly think that I could try to create better harbors, but I try to stick to the base game. I try not to use mods. There are mods available for Anno 1800 already that give you some really interesting options for building your harbors and stuff like that. But as I said, I try to stick to the vanilla game. Okay, try not to use any mods. Later on, like once the season passes will finally end and Ubisoft won't have any more ways to make money out of Anno, then probably I'll try to go into some mods. There are some mods that I would like to try out like right now because I think they're really cool, but that thing will have to wait. So, well, yeah, we'll see how that thing is gonna go. I'll be able finally to change the look of my harbors and make them look more industrial. That's gonna be cool. I seriously lack the possibility to make cool harbors since Anno 1404. Like, that Anno had some really cool ideas when it comes to building harbors. You also had this special monument in that game. You had this really super fancy, huge warehouse structure, which is actually based on the thing that we have in Poland. If you want to see it like, you know, scale 1:1, you have to visit Poland. But basically, yeah, we got that thing over here. So, you know, it's like, yay, Poland. Which is, of course, not unique, right? They used to build those things all over the place, but apparently the one we have is the one that actually lasted. So, well, I don't know. We'll see. Looking forward into it. I honestly hope that there won't be another repeat of the Botanica DLC, which, yeah, okay, whatever. And I honestly hope that this is not gonna be another waste of opportunity as the Arctic. I mean, I know some people will not agree with me. As I said, I really like the Arctic, but I just hate the opportunity that the developers have missed for that thing. That could be really cool. Well, it's not. It's just, I don't know. I hope that actually somebody's gonna make a mod to change completely the Arctic in some maybe better way. I don't know. I'm probably rambling too much. So for now, though, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna leave this thing as over here. Let me know what you think. And, well, if you want to get yourself DLCs, links in the description below. I hope I will have some for the Ubisoft Uplay store thingy shop. Whatever. We'll see. So, yeah. We're gonna be up building probably in the closest future because the first DLC is just around the corner. And, well, I'll be waiting. But for now, though, I'm gonna leave this thing as of here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, thumbs up, a lot. See you in the next video.